Okay, I'm here in New York, in Manhattan, with my good buddy Simon Mills. We've had a great dinner here. Simon is a guy who's a musician, a publisher, and an old buddy from Australia. And we just had dinner with David A. Paterson, who is the 55th governor of New York, former governor of New York. I've got his book here. And I said to him, mate, can we do a quick radio interview? So we're going to hear a little bit of his story. Tell us your background, mate. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I was raised in Long Island because the New York City public school system would not accept a blind student. I'm not totally blind, but I am legally blind in the public school system. And I grew up in Long Island, went to Columbia University, then went back to Long Island to go to Hofstra Law School, and then was a prosecutor in the Queen's DA's office when the opportunity hit me and I ran for office back in Harlem, where my father grew up and where I spent a lot of time as a child, and that's how I got into government.
Okay, and tell us a bit about your role as a senator and also role as a governor. Which one came first?
Well, obviously the senator came first. I was a state senator, which is one of many senators in each state and assembly members in the other house. And I tried to be an advocate for the disabled, tried to be an advocate for people who were homeless, tried to do that for people who were unemployed, domestic violence victims, victims of what we now call hate-based crimes because of their race, religion, or some other ethnic issue. They got attacked by other people, and it was kind of my prowess as a senator. And then in 2006, Eliot Spitzer ran for governor and asked me to be his lieutenant governor, which shocked me to no end. But I was trying to create opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, and he said that if I became lieutenant governor with him, that he would make that happen. It didn't actually happen until I became governor in 2008, and that's what I'm most proud of in my public service.
Well, it's awesome to hear a bit of your background, and you just touched on the subject of homelessness before, which I'm curious to ask you about. When I was in LA recently, I heard they announced a state of emergency, something like 40,000 homeless people on the streets every night in LA, and the new mayor had declared a state of emergency, and I actually went down to Skid Row and saw how horrible it was. But a good friend of mine works for Urban Mission, which is a great mission getting people or rehoming people that have been on the streets. Tell us a bit about your experience working with the homelessness issue here in New York.
Well, we estimated there were 45 to 60,000 homeless people roaming the streets of New York City in 1985 when I was first elected. And we really cleaned that up to a great degree, but now we're right back where we were before. There are a lot of homeless people in the city. And I think the most important thing is to find them actually places where they're safe, because some of the homeless, at least 25% of them, Matt, I didn't know if you knew this, are actually working. They're working, then they have no place to go after work. Some of them hide in their office buildings because they don't have a place to go home. And they take the checks and buy supplies so that they can continue to work. That's unacceptable in 2023. That's not something that we want to have happen. And even though I'm out of office for 15 years, that's something I continue to work on. Because I got my start working for homeless services with the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People here in the United States.
And I've been working with homeless in our church for a number of years now, and the good news story is that a lot of them, once they've found a place to work, once they've started to have a bit more self-esteem and a bit more belief in themselves, they can end up getting their own accommodation, end up getting ahead in life. And some of our best volunteers and even staff at our church are from the streets. And I find that they're our best workers because they're then helping the others because they can relate to them. Tell us, what do you think is the answer to those that have that low self-esteem and they think they're never going to get out of that tough spot that they're in? What do you think is the answer to help them get off the street and start having a vision in life?
Well, Matt, after all I've told you, and it sounds pretty good for a person who was born legally blind and African American to become the first African American governor of the state of New York, and the second blind person to become governor of a state in the United States, and the first one only served for 11 days. What I would say is, it's the ability to let people know that you've been through what they have been through. When you say that to a person, no matter what they think, no matter how much they feel they're being hoodwinked or cajoled, they've got to notice that you're feeling that way. And I think that's why you all have been so successful in that particular project. One of the things that we're looking forward to is to try to stop the situation before people become homeless in the first place, because as I said, some of them actually have jobs. And my suggestion for how to address that particular problem is to take a lot of city or state-owned land and turn it over to organizations very much like what you do, and let them find the homeless people to house there and fund it ourselves. The other issue is the issue that a lot of homeless people have mental health challenges. And during the 80s in the United States, we had something called deinstitutionalization. We tried to get those people back out of the institutions on the street, probably because of movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Lemmon.
Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, oh my God. Sorry, Jack. And The Shrike, which was a movie with Fred McMurray that was in that movie earlier. And this idea that the mental hospital was an abusive place. And it may have been in those days, but it isn't now. And I think we've got to create more beds for people who, unfortunately, because of a mental disease or disability, need that assistance.
Well, it's awesome to hear about this new book of yours called Black, Blind and in Charge, a story of visionary leadership and overcoming adversity. I'm looking forward to reading this new book, published by my mate Millsy, Simon Mills. Looking forward to reading that. And one of the stories you were just mentioning at dinner, which I'd love for you to just retell a little bit, was when you met the Queen Elizabeth when she was here in the US. Tell us the story.
On July, I think it was the 10th of 2010, Queen Elizabeth visited New York, and we're all waiting for her to come to greet us. She laid wreaths at the September 11th Memorial, and the September 11th Memorial is on the Port Authority property, which is run by the two governors. But Mayor Bloomberg, who was always the one who thought he was the most important than anyone else, decides that he's going to greet the Queen and escort the Queen in. But when he went to do it, the United Nations office of informed him that the only person that ever escorts the Queen is Prince Philip. So Governor Chris Christie and I are waiting at the bottom of this hill to greet him, and Governor Christie says that Mayor Bloomberg said that he's still going to come to the bottom of the hill and be first to meet the Queen. And he said to me, if he does that, I want you to trip him and I'll sit on him. One of my favorite stories being governor. Governor Christie denies that happened. And I will say that he meant it in fun, and he only said it to me. But it really made my day, and I thought Governor Christie had the right idea.
Well, David, it's been awesome to meet you tonight, and really just wanted to thank you for putting up with some of my Aussie stories tonight and my crazy Australian accent. It's been great to meet you, mate. Thanks for your time.
Oh, it's been great to meet you, and Simon Mills arranged this meeting for the two of us. and Simon and I are the best of friends. I actually broke him out of jail, but I can't say where. Many years ago.
Okay. Good on you, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Quick extension. The new book.